Well, thank you for getting a good introduction and what about e-meetings happening nowadays. So, when we have a Pfizer meet, we know it's all about palbociclib in the present days. So, in this coming 30 to 40 minutes, we will see how palbociclib came into practice and what is its phase 2 data, and then the second line, and then how it came in the first line data, and then what is the real world data we have. So let us see each one of the trials in a fine manner and understand the success of this particular drug. So, well, we all know breast cancer is one of the leading cancers, and not only in incidence, it also has significant mortality. So, breast cancer is one of the leading causes as per Globocan data we have. And then if you look into the advanced disease, so we have, even if we treat 100 women with a localized breast cancer, nearly 30% of breast cancer will develop metastasis. Those which have early disease develop metastasis at some point of time. So metastatic breast cancer is a problem because even early breast cancers whom we treat with curative intent, dose dense chemotherapies, radiation therapy, adjuvant hormonal therapy, in spite of that, we have 30% of women who are going to develop metastasis in their follow up. And then we have around 10% of women who present with upfront metastatic breast cancer, unfortunately. So we have a big number. Breast cancer is very common, and 30% of becoming mets and 10% having upfront mets is a big number. And we have a huge lot of population. And you can see the proportion of hormone receptor positive patients. Only 60% of them constitute ERPR positive and HER2 negative tumors. So, if we have a hormone receptor positivity, the ERPR positive, along with that, if we have a HER2 positivity, then HER2 becomes a driving mutation. On that occasion, we need to target more of HER2 rather than hormone receptor positivity. So, uh, um, if we say hormone receptor positive, we are specifying it to the group where it is strongly estrogen and progesterone receptor positive and HER2 negative tumors, and nearly 60% of them belong to this particular category. So this is how the treatment of hormone receptor positive metastatic breast cancer has developed over a period of time. We can see single tamoxifen, and then coming on to anastrozole, then we have letrozole, and then we have steroidal NSAIDs, exemestane, and then we have pure estrogen antagonist, namely fulvestrant, and now we have palbociclib plus letrozole. So tamoxifen is basically a selective estrogen receptor modulator. It came initially, it did show very promise, and then we understood that not just estrogen receptor inhibition, but we have to reduce the peripheral production of estrogen with which we can. We had this aromatics inhibitors where we had anastrozole and then letrozole, and then we had exemestane, aromacin, which came up, which is a steroidal aromatase inhibitor, and then we had pure estrogen antagonists, namely fulvestrant. So and then so before we had these CDK4 inhibitors for practice, we had to confine within these, and we had some exemestane everolimus combination, which was not that promising. So so now after the addition of CDK, the survival has extended, and now we have further data coming on alpelisib, which is a PIK3CA inhibitor. This is how this evolution of anti-hormonal therapy in a hormone receptor positive metastatic breast cancer has happened. So, as such, CDK4/6 is not given as a single agent. It is always given in combination with another uh, anti-estrogen aromatase inhibitor, or with a tamoxifen or with fulvestrant. So we want estrogen blocker or we want aromatase inhibitor. Along with that, we combine palbociclib. So if you look into palbociclib, it is the first in the class of CDK4/6 inhibitors. Basically, cyclin-dependent kinase are required for phosphorylation and for the cell cycle to proceed through the G1S, G2M phases, especially the G1S phase where we are speaking of. So for the cells to proceed to this G1S cycle, the CDK4/6 are required. It is required for phosphorylation. If you look into the uh, uh, further slide, I would just show you that how the retinoblastoma gene being phosphorylated results in the release of the brake, results in the G1S phase transition resulting in cell multiplication. So if you inhibit this phosphorylation with CDK4/6 inhibitors, definitely the proliferating capacity of hormone receptor positive cells will be inhibited. Well, if we look into the present day indication, we have indication for palbociclib in the metastatic breast cancer in combination with letrozole in the first line setting, and then we have this in combination with fulvestrant in the second line, the subsequent line setting. Going on to the trial. So right now we are having three CDK4 inhibitors: palbociclib, ribociclib, and abemaciclib. We say Paloma for all palbociclib, and then we have Mona Lisa trial and we have Monarch trials for ribociclib and abemaciclib respectively. So Paloma 1 was the phase 2 study of palbociclib. It was a single arm study. The first line where they combined letrozole with palbociclib, and this did show a median progression-free interval of nearly 20 months. So if we give any single agent hormonal therapy like a tamoxifen or a letrozole or exemestane, whatever we give, we usually see a progression free around 1 year. If there were trials like Falcon trial, little more than 1 year, where we used fulvestrant, and then we had fulvestrant plus aromatase inhibitor combination, which did extend. But this much amount of median PFS, nearly approaching to nearly 2 years, was very promising, and this was the first time ever in oncology, especially in hormone receptor positive setting, where we could see a progression-free interval of nearly 20 months, and this was a big difference. This led to the phase 3 clinical trial, which is the Paloma 2 trial. And this is the landmark trial that gave approval for palbociclib in the first line setting. And if you look into the inclusion criteria, it included post-menopausal patients who were strongly estrogen receptor positive, HER2 negative. They did not receive any systemic therapy for advanced disease. They could have received aromatase inhibitors like anastrozole or letrozole in the adjuvant setting. However, it should have been more than 12 months from the completion of therapy. ACOG up to 2 performance status was allowed. They allowed visceral metastasis also. So the randomization was 2:1 fashion with classical dose of palbociclib 125, 3 weeks on followed by 1 week off versus placebo plus letrozole. So this is how, and the dose reductions was as per the trial protocol, and the primary endpoint was progression free survival. So if you look into the palbociclib plus letrozole versus placebo plus letrozole, you can see the median progression free survival crossing 2 years. For the first time, we could see a patient of hormones receptor positive metastatic breast cancer on a single on the first line treatment for nearly 2 years was a big difference, and you can see the median PFS was nearly 27.6 months in comparison to placebo plus letrozole, and it was statistically significant, a very impressive hazard ratio of 0.56. Then you could see the subgroup analysis. It did benefit visceral, non-visceral, bone-only lesions. Whether the TFI was 5 years or 10 years, or single site disease or multiple site disease, age, performance status, none mattered. It this particular combination benefited all subgroup of patients. So this was the response rate. So this response rate is superior to any chemotherapy to that matter for a hormone receptor positive subset. You can see the response rate in the terms of more than 40%. And this was quite significant and statistically significant. The duration of response was also significant. So the Paloma 2 was the one showed a progression-free survival of 27.6 months, and there were no new warning or safety signals. And this led palbociclib plus letrozole as the first-line treatment option for a hormone receptor positive, HER2 advanced breast cancer. And then we have the Paloma 3, where palbociclib got its approval for the second line in those patients who had progressed on prior endocrine therapy. This was a difficult to treat population. If you compare and contrast with the other trials of ribociclib and abemaciclib, this particular trial had a difficult to treat population who were heavily pretreated. And then you can see here it did include visceral metastasis, and they did stratify according to the sensitivity to hormonal therapy. So they defined the sensitivity to hormonal therapy as 24, that is 6 months. They should have not progressed on a previous hormonal therapy. So they took 24 weeks as the difference mark, and it was randomized in 2:1 fashion to palbociclib plus fulvestrant versus placebo plus fulvestrant. And the primary endpoint was progression-free survival. The secondary endpoint was response rates, overall survival, duration of response. You can see the baseline characteristics. They were well matched between the subsets. It did include previous chemotherapy in nearly 70% patients, more than 70. And aromatase inhibitor was used on nearly 85% patients, and tamoxifen was in 60%. So they were sort of heavily pretreated disease, and you can see visceral disease was present in nearly 60% patients, and nearly 80% were postmenopausal. So, and you can see the prior lines of metastatic breast cancer therapy. You can see that nearly 25% had 2 lines of therapy before, and 10% had more than reported 3 lines of therapy. So this is the one that makes Paloma quite distinct from the Mona Lisa trials, where they always talk of the overall survival benefit. And this is a difficult to treat population. Paloma 3 did include. And then if you look into the progression-free survival, we hardly see in the second line setting any progression-free interval more than 6 months is very significant. We don't see it in practice. After having progressed on first line endocrine therapy, if you come to second line, the PFS gets halved. And you can see here, even here it is approaching nearly up to 1 year. This is quite significant. We could see a statistically significant progression-free survival difference in the palbociclib plus fulvestrant arm versus placebo plus fulvestrant arm, with an impressive hazard ratio of 0.50. And you can see a subgroup analysis. It did benefit all the subset of population. However, endocrine sensitivity is what we need to remember, and this is the overall response rate. Again, statistically significant overall response rate. And this Paloma 3 led to the approval of palbociclib plus fulvestrant in the subsequent line setting in those patients who have progressed on prior hormonal or chemotherapy. And you can see that the progression-free interval nearly approaching up to 1 year in this particular study. So, just dissecting the trial into final details, you can see whether it is age is less than 65, 65 to 74, or more than 75. All the subgroup of patients do gain benefit, with the hazard ratio being quite impressive. So I'll just add that those patients who are having young age have aggressive tumor biology. Even in that subset of patients, palbociclib did show a statistically significant benefit. Again, this is the PFS in age in Paloma 3. Again, it did show age was no longer a barrier for the significant difference as well. And this is by menopausal status, again, by pre and perimenopausal status, which was included in the Paloma they also showed statistically significant benefit with a p-value being significant. And this is the patient-reported outcomes in a metastatic disease. Our primary endpoints are usually overall survival and quality of life. Even though you add an extra drug, this did not result in deterioration of quality of life. The quality of life was well maintained. So whenever we have a drug, we always want phase 3 clinical data with the overall survival benefit, with the quality of life and the real world data. So palbociclib is a drug which has got all the data which is required, and that's the reason why it has become one of the gold standard treatment for a hormone receptor positive metastatic breast cancer. This quality of life assessment, you can see the quality of life is better globally. Uh, there was delay in the deterioration of global quality of life, and you can see all the parameters: physical, uh, functional role, cognition, social function, all are better. And then coming on to the safety data, this is a reasonably safe drug. You can see the comparison of palbociclib plus letrozole versus placebo. You can see the grade 3 is what I would request you to focus on. The neutropenia is around 57%, which is quite significant. This is the one that we are worried about. But if you take it for conversion to febrile neutropenia, it's very negligible. We do see these asymptomatic neutropenias with palbociclib. Uh, Similar data from Paloma 3. So basically, how does the CDK4/6 act? It acts by intervening with cell division, and as leukocytes are fast multiplying cells, they also get affected. But the type of neutropenia which you see with chemotherapy is completely different from that seen with this palbociclib-induced neutropenia, where you see a cell cycle arrest, but you don't see a cell death over here, or you don't see a DNA damage or an apoptosis that is occurring. So it's just a temporary cell cycle arrest. That's the reason why in chemotherapy you see the difference between two chemotherapy cycles is 3 weeks, whereas with palbociclib it's 3 weeks on followed by a short 1 week off. So we hardly see febrile neutropenia, and we hardly see neutropenia beyond 1 week. We do see, but it doesn't translate to febrile neutropenia as well. So this is the guideline for how we have to monitor neutropenia. If it is in the first occurrence of grade 3 neutropenia, then we give a break of 1 week and restart at the same dose. And if it happens repeatedly, then we go by one dose below, and accordingly we come from 125 to 100. That is one dose below. Then, do we have real world data with palbociclib? Yes, we have promising real world data. It has been quite long. It has been in market. So you can see the propensities score matched cohorts. Again, this all the real world data also is showing a median PFS of nearly 19.7 months, approaching in the first line setting. Just it is in par with the Paloma 2 data. Yeah, this is the real world data we have. Again, real world data benefiting all subgroup of population. So again, this real world data did show this propensity score matching did show a hazard ratio of 0.55, and the data was in par, and it was consistent with the results of Paloma 2. So I think with this, I would like to uh, conclude. So there are furthermore real world data where we have as far as palbociclib is concerned. So we also have some palbociclib data from Calcutta. Even the results also are in comparison with the Paloma trials. So from this, I would like to say that in the previous prior to the CDK4/6 era, we had a progression free interval in the first line was up to 1 year, and in the second line was up to 6 months. But this is actually doubled the progression free interval, and you can see the Paloma 2 trial where they did a subgroup analysis in the subgroup where endocrine sensitivity was maintained. in that particular subgroup, uh, uh, it did show an overall survival benefit in that subgroup. So, Paloma 3 did show an overall survival benefit in those subgroup where endocrine sensitivity was maintained, and they defined endocrine sensitivity by those who did not progress in the prior endocrine therapy for 6 months. So this is the data we have. The Paloma 2, the first line setting where there is a significant progression free survival difference, and the Paloma 3 in the second line showing an absolute overall survival difference, especially in the endocrine sensitive subgroup. So this is the data that we have. If we have any questions or any discussion, we can have a discussion. We can have a discussion on comparing palbociclib with other CDK4/6 inhibitors. There has been a lot of debate as far as ribociclib and palbociclib are concerned. So there is another issue of QT interval prolongation with ribociclib, which we have, but we have sufficient data suggesting that palbociclib doesn't cause QT interval prolongation. And then ribociclib has this issue of QT interval prolongation and transaminitis, whereas palbociclib is little more tending for causing neutropenia and cytopenias. And then other advantage of ribociclib, what they claim is the preclinical efficacy, which is concerned, but it has a higher affinity for the CDK4/6 inhibition, or the CDK4 inhibition is more stronger than the CDK6 inhibition. But this preclinical data cannot be translated to the clinical data. So you can see in all major conferences, the whole discussion is in comparing palbociclib with ribociclib. But finally, everybody understands that Paloma 3 is not comparable with Monalisat trials. Paloma 3 did have a difficult to treat subgroup of population. So further on, as far as abemaciclib is concerned, abemaciclib does not require this dose interruption of 1 week, because it is given on a continuous basis, and it is thought to have higher CNS penetration. And recently, it has been launched, and it is available for usage. So this is the data we have, the real world data, and then we have the phase 3 clinical trial data. We have quality of life data. I think this has made palbociclib to be the standard of care, both in the first and subsequent line setting, in combination with letrozole in first line and first and second line setting. Okay, thank you. I would hand over to organizer supervisor for moving on the session further.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Hello. Are you able to hear me, sir?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. At the outset, I would like to thanks each one of you for spending your valuable time with us, and also I would like to thanks Dr. Chandrakant for this wonderful presentation. Doctor, in this platform, I would like to inform you, about some, patient assistant program. We have changed our patient assistant program because this has actually requested has come from your sides, and we have also seen that patient burden. We'll have to reduce some patient burden. So, thought of all this, sir, we have requested our leadership team, and we have reduced our patient assistant program on palbociclib. Now, patient have to buy 9 cycle, and another patient will get the lifetime free. And we have another agile PAP, which will be 3+1, 3+1, 2+1, 2+1+2.
Okay.
Also, we have some patient, to give a patient relief, we have pay easy. Patient can also buy through the installments.
Okay.
So I'll not take too much of time of yours, because
Yeah.
you're busy and you have already spent the time with us. So thank you so much again. And now I'm concluding this. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.